Hi, and welcome to my life. This is Kismet, the feral grandma, and I have just returned from dropping off a teenager that should be driving himself to school. He's licensed, he has his parking permit. It's not raining that hard, and even the fog we got that we were expecting yesterday is not that bad. Before I turned in at the high school, I could see a lot of red lights up in the distance. It was just where one of the buses has stopped up the road to get a kid who shouldn't have to walk in the rain and fog along one of the deadliest highways in the area. That's alright. I know he was up late, and for once he was up late with at least a decent reason. He didn't move his wash to the dryer before he went to bed. So 2 a.m. I could hear him doing that. But he was doing something important. He was trying to make sure he would be ready for school at the right time. I didn't have to nag him about his timing this morning. There was none of that, hey, it's this time, get rolling. Just be consistent about when you get out the door, and you don't have to worry about not being out the door at the right time. So out the door we got, and now I'm home at a time slightly earlier than we left a couple of times. And now my windshield is all spotted up with the light rain. The birds are moving around anyway. Sorry, no real good place to prop my phone. And of course, okay, the daughter is past the amount of time that she absolutely has to stay sequestered. Her energy level still sucks, but she's making her youngest stay in his room and not spread this. Last time, I think his inability to stay in his room is what got the rest of us. I can live without another round of COVID. Even though obesity is supposed to be one of the biggest factors in not surviving COVID, it didn't really give us a problem. And now I'm down from morbidly obese to merely obese. And that kind of makes me happy. I'm in another round of weight loss at this point. I'm under 200. And I hate to say it, but I was getting closer and closer to 300 all the time before I started losing. My throat is not sounding like it should. But I was hanging around at 265. And going to Tai Chi anywhere from 3 to 5 times a week for a while. And that includes playing Ingress, where you're walking around doing stuff on your phone. It's an enhanced reality game. Basically, it's a science fiction game overlaid on real maps and public streets and things. I'm not interested in that anymore, but I may need to start playing it again. Because I need to be moving more. Neighbors are slowly dragging themselves out and getting to work. The truck went by. Someone else is moving stuff out of a van. Out of a van, and their wife is getting ready to go in the SUV. I don't know if she'd drop a kid off or what. Oh yeah, let her going back in the van. Everybody's got their stuff to do today. And at some point I have to go back in and keep the little dog happy. At some point it will stop sprinkling. And he will be all set to go outside because he did not want to go out when he could hear the rain coming down. Somebody has to think of the little dog. Now, if you've got off and on rain, like we do right now, you might go for rain gear. I was trying to explain to a certain young man this morning that if his mother is starting to think about things that will last his brother more than a season, then it's time to think about things that might last this big high school fella who's not really changed his shirt or jacket size in a year. He needs to start considering things that will either last him for a decade or skill sets that will last him for a decade. If he wants to learn to scuba dive or take ground school, I don't think I can afford the expense of him actually doing what comes after ground school, but if you take ground school and complete it, that's something. That's knowing what to do with an aircraft in an emergency. And there goes that one. Okay. But everyone out there with high schoolers, Bill in Alaska says, prepare, prepare, prepare. Usually right after he says, repent, repent, repent. And he's not wrong. But sometimes preparing is things that you have to put some brain power in and decide if you're going to put your budget into it right away. If you can afford it, and there's a 17-year-old or so in your home that is pretty much done growing, it might be time to think about getting him Duluths for his trousers, his outerwear, whatever. Or really good Frog Togs rainwear. Or scuba diving class if he's interested. Because part of preparing young people for their adult life is getting them ready with things they will need. The tools and the skills that will really make a difference. Now, this one guy, I've referred to him as Squirrel more than once. Because, squirrel, that joke. Sometimes when I'm speaking directly to him, I'll say, hey, autism brain, help me with this. He's great for anything that might be considered mischief and creativity. Mostly just the creativity. I'll make it sound like mischief if that'll get him interested. But, very high functioning. He likes cooking for himself. He likes making a sushi roll every now and then. He likes making omelets. He's good at omelets. But I've said to him the same thing I've said to my son many times when my son was young. every functional or semi-functional human should know how to make a decent breakfast and a few meals other than breakfast. You never know when you're going to have half the gamers in the neighborhood sitting at various places, maybe even on the floor in your living room, and you got this game party going on. Everyone's taking up a collection for pizza, and you know the only place open with pizza near you has really cruddy pizza. Well, if you know how to make something, make egg salad sandwiches if they're good. If you're not worried about impressing your friends, let them order the cruddy pizza. If you have a special guest, make them a good breakfast. Oh, my friend is flying through and has a layover and can't afford a hotel. And then they have to continue on and go to family function, wedding, funeral, whatever. Be prepared to put them up and to feed them. This is basic human behavior. There was something I used to have on my refrigerator a long time ago. 30 years ago, at least. And it was I wish I could remember it. It was a quote from an anthropologist about how important it is to share meals with someone. Because that gives someone the designation of family. I care about you. I'm sharing this with you. I did this for you. I can't even think which anthropologist it was. But seriously, people think of mom as being the one who's sharing stuff with kids. But from the first time some early man looked into a child's face and saw a reflection of himself, they began understanding. You take care of this little person, and your line continues. And sometimes taking care of the little person is teaching him to take care of others. And that goes along with not standing around with your hands in your pockets. You know your friend is coming through and has a layover. Even if it's just a few hours, pick them up and take them to dinner. Do something. I mean, someone flew in. If someone flew in to Austin Bergstrom tomorrow, I have a few that this might apply to. I could be down there picking them up. Not a problem. I would spend the gas. I mean, I can jump on the tollway up here and be down there in a reasonable amount of time. As long as I know when I need to be there, I will be early. And I know some of the food that's right around there to go eat at if they only have a short stop and they don't want to pay airport prices for food. I mean, granted, if you're in Wyoming and you're at the terminal in Casper, you can get a pretty good hot sandwich and not go broke. I don't know if you can do that at Austin Bergstrom. But I'll tell you what, just, if someone knows that somebody's willing to, make a run, pick them up, head to nearest Denny's or a steakhouse or something. That kind of improves their day. Seriously, if I gotta fly somewhere and I tell people this is where I'm gonna be, I would probably get one or two of those pick up and meal offers. I would wonder how bad things are in my life if I didn't get an offer like that. If you have no friends, then it's time to be making friends. Go to the library, see what free classes are going on. Go to the Y. Go to the church down the road when they're doing something. Make friends. Be a friend. And then start teaching them to be friends. There are some people I have never met in person. Never set eyes on them in real life. But I would definitely be out the door if I found out they needed me. Sometimes that's just what you do. But when you get back to the teenager needing things for preparation, yeah. Solid stuff that will last for 5 to 10 years or longer. They need that stuff. If a kid wants to be a mechanic, get him some hand tools and see if he can learn to keep them in the toolbox. If a kid wants to take auto shop and welding, I don't know if welding is even available for high schoolers anymore. I have to ask the boy about it. Welding is not the safest hobby in the world, but it is something people need to know how to do. I got a book so I would understand more when Loki's welding, and he was thinking about a certain unfinished project that needs work, so we might be doing that over the more pleasant weekends in spring. There will be some that will not be pleasant, but that's life. Oh yeah. I think the neighbors are done moving around and doing stuff. Oh well. I will walk my slow granny self back into the house and get out of my rain gear. Y'all take care. Grandma wants you to take care. And Grandma wants your kids to be well equipped for a satisfying and rich adult life. And if that means that the present they don't understand, like scuba or ground school, is going to take some saving, that might be what you do. In the case of Mr. wants to be an automotive mechanic, I made sure to get him some practice locks and some lock picks, because that's another good skill set. And seriously, I think locksmithing might be something that will have his attention later on. But as long as you know how to do what you're doing. Oh, and he's got his practice locks opened all of them, and he has snapped them onto his school backpack just to show them off. There are some that have a see-through segment so you can tell what the pick end is doing, and you can compare that with what you feel. But that was some tools. And when he got to the point that he needed to drive more often, he asked me if that offer was still good. And I said, yeah, but you gotta keep the tools together. They're kind of small, and you don't want to break up the kit. And when birds, cars, things. Anyway, he took to that like a duck to water. And I'm glad. That's money well spent. In fact, that was the same offer I'd made to my son when he was young and wasn't sure what he was going to be doing with his life. I don't know if he ever got himself some, but he turned me down for fear I was trying to trip him up. Now, in some places, you cannot get these things. Owning them is considered a sign of bad intentions. But he was also thinking about the fact that he's going to be driving to school, and he will be thoroughly embarrassed if he has to call and say, I locked the keys in the car. And then he realized that sometimes other students will be locking keys in cars. And it'd be a lot cheaper for them to slip him 20 to open it and not say anything to mom and dad. Open it and not report him to the parents who will yell at him for losing his key or locking in the car. It's just a thing that happens to people occasionally. Of course, don't do that, where it'll get you in trouble for having them. It's kind of like don't have certain things in your vehicle that might be considered a weapon. Now, if you put a bat in your back seat, that might be considered having a weapon. You put a bat and a catcher's mitt in the back seat, and you go, oh no, you can tell. See, I like to go play. Baseball's my game. Or cricket. Or whatever. But be who you need to be where you need to be taking care of each other, and take care of yourself. Alright, I'm going now. Bye-bye.